What's up, everybody? Sorry about the late start. I've had a busy day today. Hopefully my car is all fixed. That was a project that, I don't know, what is it? Thursday or Friday I started working on it. Finally got everything done. Apparently, I don't know if any of you guys watching have an HHR with a sunroof, but if you do, I highly recommend you check your drain lines because mine was dumping water into my cabin, getting all over a bunch of the wiring harnesses, causing all sorts of electrical issues, and apparently it's a common problem in these cars. I should probably, my mom has one. I think she has a sunroof in hers, so it's a pain. You have to take the whole headliner out to get to it. So I had most of my car disassembled. And I'm going to show it really quick. So, you know, I don't just tinker with printers. I have no problem getting my hands dirty with the cars because I don't know about you guys. I like to keep my cars for a while. And so this was my car up until last night. I literally took everything out because you got to get to these drain lines, and the drain lines are up behind the sunroof. So if we look here, this is before I pulled the headliner. I took a peek to see if I need to pull it down, and sure enough, this is where all the water drains out. So if you your sunroof is like open or like the seal is not perfect, it'll drain to the back of the car. There's also ones in the front, so there's 4 drain lines. And yeah, now I contemplated you know, making a little TPU print to replace the connector here, but I was actually able to get it to go back in, and I ended up sealing it with some E6000 glue and put some zip ties on there. You know, it's not pretty, but this is not coming out. So I was actually able to shove both the connectors up to right about here in the actual boot. There's E6000 on the inside here and here. Like, these are not coming out, but basically it was throwing all sorts of codes with my car, literally making it undrivable. Like, I could not go anywhere until it was fixed. So it was throwing all sorts of codes here. You can see here from my OBD scanner, it's throwing network errors, 0073, 0101, and according to the service bulletins and looking these up in all data, it means high resistance on the lines. So guess what that causes? Corrosion. There were corrosion on all sorts of connectors. So yeah, if you have an HHR, check and you have a moonroof, check this, because this is apparently a very common problem. They come out, there's 4 drains on the car, there's 2 in the front, 2 in the rear, and mine was leaking. So this is what you'll have to do. You'll have to pull the headliner down. You take the sun visors off. Yeah, you take the sun visors off, the coat hooks, there's a panel in the rear here, and then you fold the front seat down. It says to take the driver's headrests off, but I couldn't get it. But you have to angle it out and pull it out of the back of the car and kind of squeeze it as you're pulling it out. So it's a 2-person job. But yeah, so this is what I had to do to my car. Luckily, the corrosion wasn't too bad on the connectors. I was able to clean them with contact cleaner, and then I ended up putting dielectric grease in the connectors. There are these style connectors you see here. This is the one that went to the headliner harness, and this one was cleaned out. There were a couple pins corroded on here. They weren't corroded all the way through, so I was able to use some contact cleaner and like a little pick and clean them off to get some fresh metal. And then I put dielectric grease in here to help prevent any further corrosion if something happens again. So yeah, that's why I was not super busy or super active online these last basically Thursday, Friday, the weekend, and today. So, but I also had to replace 2 of my speakers as well, because somehow the water got in there and ruined the contacts. So I ended up just picking up some Pioneer, just cheap 3-ways. They're like $60 for a pair. And Amazon bit me again. I actually bought these from Best Buy because Amazon screwed me over yet again. How many of you guys have have gotten LPN label items? I've been trying not to order from Amazon because I really don't like their business practices, and this is one of the number of reasons why I don't order from Amazon whenever I can, is because of stuff like this. So I ordered 2 exact sets of speakers. You can see they're exactly the same, and you can see here this one actually has the label that says new. And if you guys get a package from Amazon and it's got this LPN label, this means it was a return. So somebody defrauded Amazon, and then Amazon sent it out to me because they don't check their returns. This is something you'll never have happen with us. You can see here, these were the speakers I got instead of the original ones. So they were missing the adapter plates. And if you notice, they're not even the same speaker. This is like a 4-way, This was a Pioneer speaker, but it was all completely screwed up. So if you want to watch this whole video, you can look up my my Timothy Hoagland YouTube channel. I post this whole video on there, and they're also broken too. Like you can see here, look at the wires are broken. So somebody, and this is why we don't sell on Amazon, is because they don't check their stuff, and I don't want our customers getting used things. But this is one of the reasons why I have been going and buying stuff from anywhere but Amazon whenever I can. The only reason I ordered these is because I was in a hurry to get my car back together. So this literally pushed back how long it would be to get my car back up and running, because I had pulled all the door panels. So I was like, I don't want to put them back on. It's a pain in the ass. So yeah, I fixed every little thing that was wrong with the car though. Like my washer fluid tank was leaking, so I replaced that. I replaced one of the sprayers because one was clogged. My rear window switch didn't work, so I took it apart and cleaned it, and now it works. Replaced my mirror switch. Like I had literally like a checklist of like 25 different things. Like it's a 11-year-old car. 11? 12 years old. It's 2010. So yeah, that's what I was dealing with. Like I said, I was really close to just open up Fusion and making a longer little piece out of like TPU for those drain lines. But I was like, well, let me try and see if I can get them to go back to there, and I did. So hopefully it doesn't happen again. If it does, I'm probably just going to print ones that are longer, and then, you know, put some silicone on the inside of them to make sure they're completely sealed, just in case there's layer issues. But oh my god, yeah, it's a pain in the ass. Are we eating the stick? Hey, hang on. We have a stick, and we're apparently trying to eat it. Hey, damn it. No. He was trying to eat the stick. Oh. Yeah. Come here. Come here. Come here. Hi, Remo. Oh. We're trying having him out on this stream so they can play together. We'll see. He needs fiber in his diet. Okay, anyway, so there's my random thing. We are still pushing ahead with firmware updates. I don't know if you guys follow our GitHub, but there's a bunch of updates and stuff that I've been pushing out, trying to get the 2.1.1 update for Marlin merged into our firmware. And then I'd like to get us merged onto the bug fix once the 2.1.1 update is finished, because the new bug fix has the input shaping on it, which is, you know, the thing that people rave about, you know, with Clipper, except Marlin is able to do it on the control board itself with no extra parts. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So if you guys are new to this stream, these streams you ask us questions about the 3D printer. We're going to go to, since I started about 10 minutes late, we're going to go to about 5:15 here, my time. I'm on Central Time. And you guys ask me questions about your 3D printers. Stick with FDM because I do not do resin printers. So, yeah. Let's see what questions we have here. And if you guys want to ask a question, you have to put !Q in front of it so the bot can pick it up. Yeah. He wouldn't do that because he's a little crackhead. You want your friend back, Remo? Yeah, do you want to put him down so you guys can wrestle? Go ahead. Logan. Anyways, if they become too loud, I will put the puppy in the crate. So anyways, yeah, so there's a lot of cool stuff coming to the new Marlin update, and I'm really excited. And I'm basically focusing my time right now on firmware. The firmware has the paid firmware configs that we have for the 427 board and the SKR board. The sales have been good enough for us to justify putting time into it, so I appreciate everybody that has been picking those up. They do help because the more revenue we have for that, the more stuff I can offload to other people, so I can free up my time to work on firmware. So we did just push an update. If you have an SKR E3 Mini V3 and are using our firmware and you were having issues where the USB port wasn't showing a COM port, there's actually a fix that we just pushed out with code from, I think it was Big Tree Tech's GitHub. Tor is the one who found it. I didn't have the issue on my SKR3. You can see here I was actually testing it on real hardware. So we do purchase the boards that we're selling firmware for testing. I didn't have that issue on mine, but I guess they might have changed something. But the fix doesn't change anything with this board I have working, which is one of the probably original ones that they the first like batches of the V3s they came out with. Then we got confirmation from the customer that reported the issue saying that the problem is fixed. So if you guys are having USB issues, go ahead and re-download the firmware, and that update is pushed out live. So, but yeah, so let's see. The first question is from Nemo, is your preference outer walls first or inner walls first when you slice, and why? So that's a good question. So I have always done the inner walls first, and the reason is because if you have like an overhang, you know, if it's like an overhang like this and you're printing a layer, if you do the outer walls first, you can get more sagging, whereas if you do the inner walls and then the outer wall can bond onto that inner wall, if that makes sense. Hey, no screaming. We're streaming. The puppy has found his voice. So, yeah, so that's that. I've always done inner walls, then outer walls. So yeah, that's just my preference. I'm curious to know what do you guys in chat use? Do you guys use outer first, or inner first? I'm curious. I'm genuinely curious. And I'm not sponsored by Buzz, but this is also one of my favorite energy drinks, and we have a bunch of it left over from our LAN party. So I'm cheating on Maw. I still have my Maw on my desk, but I'm cheating on Maw this stream. I'm curious to see. Tor says inner then outer, slower. Yes, I do actually run an underspeed on my outers. I think I'm running at like 50 or 60% on my outer walls. Yeah, so I always did inner and then a slower outer wall. The reason I do a slower outer wall is it gives a better surface finish. So the inner one you're really not going to see typically. So that's why I'll run a slower outer wall, because it'll get that inner wall done quicker, and then it'll come and do a nice slower one. Because in general, no matter what you have on your printer, how it's built, you know, just because of physics, the faster you print, the lower your print quality is going to get. So, yeah, I always do a slower outer wall. So, let's see. DeWitt says he does the inner first for that exact reason too. Nadir, inner first. Look like inner first is the common one here. I've always done that. So Beefing It says, whatever the fault in the Bamboo Studio or Cura is, I think it's inner first. I think most slicers are set to inner first. I could be wrong. I've played with multiple slicers, but I feel like they've all done inner first. I feel like outer first is more of a, you had to set it that way for it to do it type of thing. Yeah, so let's see. Tor says, why are there no 3D prints in this fixed SMH? There were almost going to be some 3D prints. I think you're talking about the car. Actually, I want to call it a 3D print. I totally forgot about this. So one of the issues, the issue I was having with the car that prompted me to tear this all apart, is intermittently you'd be driving and all the gauges on the dash would go crazy. The power steering would go in and out. It would throw all sorts of ESC errors and traction control errors. And the number one fix on the HHR forums, people were reporting, is that you take the fuse boxes, multiple pieces, and you take apart the fuse box, clean the contacts, and reseat them, because just over time, they lose connection. So hey, enough. The main battery terminal, so my battery is actually in the rear of the car, so there's a big ass wire that comes from the trunk battery to the fuse box under the hood, and it's on there with a bolt. Now the bolt wasn't rusted, and it just wouldn't come off. So I tried getting it off manually, trying to get the nut to come off. I soaked it with WD-40, and then I took my little impact, my 1/4 inch impact, just gave it a couple little bursts, and it still wouldn't come out, but it ended up breaking the plastic. So the problem is the car I have is actually the SS model, which is like, I cannot find the part for the fuse box anywhere. So you can see here, this is the terminal. So this is like one of the main terminals here. So this cracked off here, was a little corroded. So I actually soldered this, fluxed it to hell, soldered this with my chisel tip, and it's making great connection now. But you can see here where the piece broke off. So I actually used a 3D pen with ABS, because I wanted something obviously high temp resistant, so because it's under the car hood. And we'll see how it holds up. And I basically formed my own strain relief with a 3D pen, layer by layer. And luckily, if you look in here, there's kind of like a cavity here, and this is actually hollow behind here. I was actually able to push the ABS into here to give it more physical strength to mount to. And then I basically just built out a strain relief, literally like layer by layer. I was manually moving the pen back and forth. I had it really hot, and then I, took my grinding or my Dremel with the sanding wheel and ground it all down. Made sure that I wasn't interrupting where it was going to sit here. You can see this is the bottom of the unit, and it's actually really strong. Like it works, and I had just enough clearance here to fit the nut back on, and then I torqued it down to spec. I don't know if the previous owner or like the dealer or something, if somebody had messed with it and like over tightened this, because I've never taken this lug off. I've had the car for like 10 years. So yeah, this actually worked really well. It was actually really strong. And I was drying nylon apparently. So yeah, that was, I did use 3D printing filament for this. This wasn't a 3D print. I thought about modeling it up, but I was like, you know what? I think Daniel was like, well, we have a 3D pen in the shop. Do you want to try that? So I was originally going to use nylon, but if you notice this one picture, the nylon was like super wet. So this is what happens with nylon when it's wet and you extrude it. It bubbles up because of the moisture. And that picture of the dehydrator was actually the Coax Nilex getting dried. So I do have some other plans for that, but they're not car related. So yeah, I did use some 3D material. I totally forgot about that. Because I can't find that fuse box anywhere. I literally have called junkyards, and there were tons of junkyards that had the regular, like the LS or the LT HHRs, but not the SS. And the SS has its own specific part number for the fuse box. I don't know if that's just GM being a pain in the ass and there's not actually a difference because they look similar, but I wasn't about to risk it. And you know what? I was like, this works. Like, yeah, the 3D pens are fun. I don't even know what brand it is. It's right here. Like, it's literally the most generic thing, ever. And it's like Sanyoe. I have no idea. It's like super generic. But this is what we had. I MacGyvered it. So yeah, there was some 3D printing, but not printing. I guess it was like 3D extrusion. So, but yeah. Let's see. MSN Quarter, did you ever, I'm assuming, like, okay, this is what I mean by it's weird. I don't know why the bot's doing this. If I'm, like, struggling with a question, look at how it's putting, I don't know what you actually typed. What did you actually type? I'm looking back in the chat log. Like, that's what it sent me in the file there. I'm looking here. Oh, will you? So I'm assuming will it like converted. I think that's like a YouTube channel name or something. Anyways, will I ever do a printer tuning start to finish live stream? I could. What kind of like what kind of tuning are you talking about? Because you have your physical tuning of the printer. You have your firmware tuning, getting your accelerations and jerks. Like I don't go super in depth even on my own machines. I use the same firmware settings, and I have our firmware basically kind of auto tune itself, being that accelerations and jerk values are determined based on the printer's size. Because typically if you have a larger printer with a larger bed, especially with the bed flinger, you want to run things slower. But yeah, maybe I could use the Ender 7 because I was going to do the Ender 7 last week, but then my car decided, no, we're going to take your time. That's why I didn't do the Ender 7, so I apologize if you guys were looking for it. It's still sitting here. I got to clean my bench off because I used the bench to do some stuff for the car. Hey! Why is he so loud? There's no reason they scream. Look at him. He's like, I'm going to attack him. So... anyways, yeah, I mean, I could do that. How many people would actually be interested in that? It'd probably be more of a casual thing. Like, hey, we're going to mess with this and run test prints and, yeah. Nothing too crazy. Beefing It says, have you heard about the Vez 3D's, Goliath? A company is calling him out for patent infringement, or basically the same thing Creelli does. I haven't seen that. Let me look this up. But if they're infringing on the patent, they're infringing on the patent. And the patent, if it's, I'm looking here. Oh, it's an open source partnership one. Let me see. As far as I know, the patent issue was related to the metal tubes. There, and it looks like this is an open source hot end. Let's see. Looks like Mellow. I'm familiar with them. They're a Chinese company. Let's see. So I'm assuming whoever is going after them is complaining about the attachment here. I don't know if they'd have a leg to stand on because these screws are going up into. It looks like they're going up into the upper heat block here. So I don't see how they could claim that they're infringing. If it is Slice's patent is on using, I can't remember what metal is, but little hollow tubes to attach the heater block to the heatsink. And this is not it. Yeah, this is like what Creality's doing. So I don't know if you want to like post additional details, but looking at the picture here, it looks like the screws go up through here and there's ceramic there. So that's interesting. 1 day ago, I want to see. He just got banned off of AliExpress for copyright infringement. Let's see. So it's for copyright infringement. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not aware of that, but I will keep it in the back of my mind here. So let's see. Nadir, input shaper on Marlin. How? It's in the latest bug fix, the 2.1 bug fix. I have not messed with it yet, but I have seen there is a GitHub thread. I think I have it in our chat here because we were talking about it yesterday. Let me see. Hang on. Hey, Comet, enough. He keeps yapping like that. I'm going to put him in his crate. I'm trying to find it. We were talking about on our team call yesterday. Here it is. Let me pull this up here. There we go. So yeah, so this was the pull request here on September 24th by Tom Brazier. I'll skip all the nerdy stuff. This is the kind of stuff you guys want to see where it was actually printed with the compensation. So the interesting thing is you don't need any actual extra hardware to do this. It's just running G-code commands and doing test prints. So it's not like the Clipper one where you have to buy an accelerometer and hook it up to your printer and run the tuning and then take it off. I prefer not having to have additional hardware because look at these results. Look at this. Look at the ghosting just going away, especially on here. Look at here. So this is without it. This is with it, and it's not perfect, but this is experimental code. But look at those results. Like, you can't argue with that. Look how much nicer that is. So, and you can see here running test prints as it fades. So there's a command you run, and it sets different variables. And you look at it, which is kind of what Clipper does when you tune it, which kind of makes me wonder if the accelerometer is even necessary because, like, they're doing this with just code and running a tune. So we are already working on writing documentation for using this because this will work on our EasyBoard V1 and our V2 for sure. I believe it'll work on most of the Creality 32-bit boards. So, but you can see here, before and after, like, look at the difference this makes. So it is making a direct improvement on the print quality. So this is one of the reasons why I want to push ahead with getting our firmware updated to the latest version of Marlin, is so we can start playing with this, especially once it becomes officially released. So this is not in the official Marlin 2.1.1 release. This looks like it'll be in the 2.1.2, which is not out yet. So yeah, if you guys want to look at this, this is pull request number 24797 on the Marlin GitHub. But yeah, there's a bunch of code stuff in here, test prints. I think this is the latest, one of the latest ones I've seen. But again, it makes a big difference, and they're doing this all with software. So that's pretty cool. So no need to wire up an accelerometer or do tuning. You just generate a G-code file, and we're looking at not only putting together documentation, but hey, here's pre-sliced G-code files. Here's documentation on what commands to run, how to tune it, and then eventually doing videos on it. So I think it's pretty cool. Let's see. Nadir's asking about did you test MKS Tiny B, the board with the ESP32 chip? I have not. Tips to keep focused with ADHD. To-do lists. What else? To-do lists. Use a calendar like, you know, Google Calendar, or I use Proton Mail, so I use their calendar. And like just minimizing distractions. So like this right here. I'm mostly able to tune it out for a stream, but if I was working on code, these guys would be not playing in here. You know, and then also like the biggest thing, and I think this is the biggest improvement I've had with dealing with ADHD, is having people, especially your, you know, your significant other, that are actually understanding of it and are willing to work with you to like understand that you're not trying to be difficult, that your brain just needs sometimes no interruptions. Like if I'm working on something, you know, even if it's just a quick thing, like if someone comes into my office, you know, whether it's Krista or somebody else, or someone messages me, I'll just be like, hey, I'm in the middle of something, or hey, I'm working, you know. And basically if I'm like, I'm working, that means I'm focused on something. And for me anyways, I have a really hard time getting back on task. It's hard enough to start a task, but once I'm on a task, I can go for hours. The problem is, as soon as somebody comes in and diverts my attention, there's a thing called, I think it's referred to as switching costs, where, you know, it'll take me maybe 5-10 minutes to kind of get back and regroup to where I was at, to be like, okay, wait, what was I working on? You know, especially with code, if I'm dealing with tons of code, it's really hard. And usually I'll be like, hey, I'm working on code for an hour. Well, don't bother me. Like, put everything on do not disturb, shut the phone off. That's a big thing I do a lot, is I will literally shut my phone off so it doesn't bother me. I'll exit programs on my computer that are popping up notifications. For me anyways, it's minimizing distractions is very helpful. So anyways, so Beef Ingot, are they a good 3D pens? I want to buy one. I want DC control and USB Type-C. I'm not sure, but if somebody in the chat has a recommendation, I haven't looked at 3D pens in a while. So, I mean, also another thing too with ADHD, stimulants do help. I've tried stimulant medications; they have more side effects than they're worth. But makes sense why I like caffeine. Caffeine does actually help me focus. It's kind of wild because I can drink like 1 or 2 of these and then go to sleep because it calms me down. It's weird. Michael Ryan says, I want to start experimenting with carbon fiber nylon 0.5 or 0.6 nozzle. Any recommendation on where to start? I would definitely go with a 0.6, 0.4s in general with any type of fills. So if you're doing like a carbon fiber nylon, you're going to have, that's a fill type material. You're definitely going to have something that's wear resistant. If you were looking at wanting to get something from us, we do have our easy flow nozzles. Those are wear resistant nozzles. Like you can run carbon fiber through them and they're not going to get torn up. And then basically look at the manufacturer's recommendations, because some nylons you need an enclosure and you need really hot bed temps, and other nylons you don't. For example, like we carry the Coax Nylex. I think we might be out of stock on that because they're taking a while to restock it. But like Coax Nylex you can print without an enclosure with moderate bed temps and like 240. Hey, do you want to go in the crate? Shh. Shh. But basically, there we go. I lost my train of thought. Anyways, hot end temps. So you're definitely going to be running it in like the 240 plus range. So if you have a stock hot end, you can either switch out the tubing. If most hot ends are going to have PTFE line, so if you switch out the tubing for something like our tough tube, you'll have higher heat resistance. Or what I would recommend, if you're doing it all the time, switch out to an all metal hot end. Or if you have like the stock Creality hot end, or like a V6 hot end, we actually carry replacement heat breaks. So if you change just the heat break out of your hot end from the PTFE line one to an all metal, you then have an all metal hot end without having to replace the entire hot end. So yeah, basically I would definitely go with a 0.6. You're gonna need a wear resistant nozzle, and if you have PTFE in there, I'd probably get rid of that. I would personally, if you're gonna do this regularly, just go to an all metal heat break. If you're doing it occasionally, then something like our tough tube is fine. So let's see. So somebody in chat, I can't remember who was asking about the 3D pen, but Dominic says the MYNT 3D pen works well. He uses it for PLA, PETG, and ABS. Okay. Is there a reasonable Raspberry Pi substitute? We are looking at some right now. We have boards. That was Dominic asked that. I am struggling to get them just as much as you guys are. That's, if you guys notice, our Easy Pies have been out of stock for a while now, which sucks, because those were a really good seller, and we don't have them. I don't know when the boards will be back. Like, it's wild. Everson Quarter says, for retraction distance and speed, filament temps. Oh, for the tuning. So he's like talking about retraction distance and speed, filament temps, bridging, infill, border speeds, cooling, etc. So kind of like a slicer tuning type of video. Okay. All right. Jay Moore says, Tor, I accidentally lost your question. Can you put that back into the bot grabs again? I like deleted the last question I was on. And, hey, what did I say? Remo was a very quiet puppy. Comet is not a very quiet puppy. Tor, can you put your question back in there so the bot picks it up? Anyways, Jay Moore says, I have a TS3D plug and I'm writing an Arduino Uno application to turn on and off plugs. I'm looking for the MQTT header and payload commands I need to send the switch to turn on and off. So I don't have those documented, but it is the standard MQTT commands, like the topics and everything for Tasmota. So our plugs run Tasmota, so any documentation for Tasmota will apply to the plugs. The topic is gonna, I believe, have easy plugin. I'm pulling up my Home Assistant right now. Because I believe it uses the name. I'm checking here. I mean, that's a bulb. I got too many things here. All right, so let's see here. So I'll switch over here. So if I go to configuration, configure MQTT, looks like this one I changed it, but the default one would have been easy plug C8A09F. So this is basically the name underscore MAC address. Let me see here. Let's see one that I haven't messed with. This is like a more basic one. Let me see. So I go to configuration, configure MQTT. Yeah, so the default topic is going to be easyplug underscore followed by the MAC address. And then the full topic is going to have your prefix and your topic here. This uses the native Tasmota information for the topics and everything. Let me see. I misspelled it, but I figured out what I wanted to anyways. So let's see. I actually haven't had to look at these manually, but here you go. Command flow here, command power switch result. So this would be tasmota.github.io/doc/mqtt. I'll post this in the chat. Just remember here, so you see by default, it looks like it's usually just Tasmota. But in ours, it's easyplug underscore followed by the MAC address. Now, here's the thing. The reason it's easyplug underscore MAC address is because when I first started messing with Tasmota, this wasn't even on the easyplugs, all the devices reported the same thing. So, like, I had two Sonoff 4 channels, and when I would open the garage door, because that uses a 4-channel one, I also use a 4-channel one in the fireplace. When I would open the garage door, the fireplace would turn on. So, make sure you have unique topics for each device. Yeah, hopefully we don't have any accidents in here. Oh, there we go. We're laying down. Good boys. But here, I'll post that in the chat here. Where's my chat? Let's see, at J Moore. There you go. All right. Okay, so Carlos says, can we donate to Expedites? Oh, the input shaping? Nope, I'm working on it as fast as I can. Now that the car's done, I'll have more spare time because I do still work, later at night. And usually when I'm working later at night, I'm working on stuff like firmware. All right. Paul Tech says, I'm putting the EasyBoard V2, my Vexa Aquila, and the screw holes don't line up. I'm assuming don't block the drivers. Any downside to using two-sided tape to secure the board in? I definitely would not do that. I think the bolt holes on those boards, I think there's like one that doesn't line up. I would personally, if I was switching it out, I would just take my Dremel with the cutting wheel and cut off the support that doesn't fit. Or if you want to get creative, just cut all of them off and then make a mounting plate that you could then glue or double stick tape, like a printed plate, to put into the control box that you can then mount the board to. And the nice thing is, EasyBoard V2 has the same mounting holes as the Creality one. So if you find a bracket for the Creality board to put in there, then you could use the EasyBoard in there with that same bracket. It's all the same mounting hole. Same thing, like there's crossover between like the SKR E3 mini series, the V1, 1.2, 2.0, 3.0. They all use the same SD slot and USB slot positioning and the same screw hole positioning. So, but I definitely would not, do not tape it to the inside. You know, make a mount, and then if you really have to, make a mount and then stick or glue the mount in there. Hey, this is your last warning. Damn dogs. All right, Mears says SVO5 versus SVO6. I want to print higher temp filament. Should I purchase SVO6 or purchase and upgrade the SVO5? We don't have any firmware for the SVO5 or SVO6. I got to look those up again. I think the SVO6, isn't that the like Prusa looking one? Yeah, it is. The Prusa, so the SVO6, that's the Prusa looking one. I think the SVO5 is the Ender 5 looking one. Yeah, it is. If I had to pick between the two and price wasn't an issue, I would probably go with the SVO5. But okay, that's it. Nope. Nope. You can't be quiet. You don't get to be out. You're fine, Remo. Remo's looking at me like, what did I do? I don't know. So the SVO6 has an all metal, but the SVO5, you could probably easily upgrade that. It looks like the same hot end from the 01, which I believe, if memory serves correct, it either can take the Reality heat break that we have or the V6 one. I can't remember. Has someone pulled one of those apart in a while? It's been a while. Our SVO ones have been running in our print farm, so I haven't taken them apart in a while. So it looks like they're about the same price, like $300 versus $250, $260. I'd probably go with the SVO5. I do got to get those in because those would be relatively easy since they do have a normal screen for us to go ahead and do firmware for. So if you're watching, send us some printers. I gotta get through our other backlog before we purchase more. All right, let's see. All right. Yeah, so mirrors, I'd probably go with the SVO5, to be completely honest. If I was between those two models, I'd probably go with the SVO5. Just because I like that the structure of the box style frame and the bed dropping a little bit more. They both look like they'd be decent printers. Adam Cadillac says, would PLA 0.4 or 0.6 nozzle? So if you want the least amount of issues, 0.6. I have done on a 0.4, but if you notice, most of the manufacturers that make the wood filaments, they recommend that you don't use a 0.4. The puppy was whining. Luckily, he does know the word enough. Just like Remo. Enough means shh. Shut it. All right, let's see. This is from Michael C. Does EasyAB use a calculated average of the test heights measured and print even across the bed, or does it ramp up/down the bed based on the measured height? I'm not sure what you mean by that. The way the auto bed leveling works is it takes readings. When it does the 2 touches, it is averaging those out to get the most accurate. So it does a fast and a slow pro and averages those out. And what that does is it generates a mesh, and then it uses mathematics to determine the compensation between the points, and then also compensation out past the points. Basically assuming that if, we're seeing the bed slant like this, we can assume it probably keeps slanting that same degree out to the edge of the bed. So hopefully that answered it. That question was worded a little weird. Let's see here. Emerson says, can ESP Home be put on any of the TH3 smart home stuff? Would there be a benefit? So our smart home stuff will work with ESP Home, but I do not have any documentation for that. you can look at the pins on the, let me see here. I'm gonna see if I can find a good example. I'm trying to remember where I had the pins listed. It's in the source code. Let me see. I gotta go to our Easy Home firmware. Let's see. They are listed in there. I believe it's under Tesmoda. Is it my user? I'm trying to remember what it is. There's comments in here for the template. I think it's in another file here. I think it would have been when I committed, because I was kicking around the idea of coming out with floodlights. We're not, just because I don't think we'd be able to sell enough of them for me to justify the large purchase. Let me look at the commits here, because that will tell me which ones they are. I'm trying to remember what file. Is it Tesmoda? Yeah, it's Tesmoda template.h. So Tesmoda template.h. Let's see. Tesmoda template.h. Let me see. Because I do leave comments in here, mainly for myself, but they're in here. So, like, if you look in the Tesmoda, the template.h file, so, like, here's for the Easy Plug V1. So you can see here the button is on GPIO 3, the blue LED is on 13, the relay is on 14. For the Easy Plug Plus V1, you can see here we've got the lines here for the power monitoring right here. So this actually uses 3 pins, so GPIO 4, 5, and 12. And then again here, this is the same for the Plus as it is the 1. The button's on GPIO 3. The LED is on 13 and the relay is on 14. And then for the Easy bulbs as well, you can see here, red is on 4, white channels on 5, green channels on 12, and blue channels on 14. So this is in here. This is in the Tesmoda template.h file of the source code. This is on our GitHub here, so I'll post it. I'll post it in chat. So I see Emerson saying you better freaking do floodlights. They're awesome. Yeah, so Emerson has one of the floodlight samples I got from one of our supplier that makes the other stuff. The problem is I have to order a minimum of 500 of them to get custom bulbs. So, and I don't know if there's enough of a demand for floodlights. That's why I'm contemplating possibly spinning up another brand. Starting up another brand just for the smart home stuff, having it all still sold on TH3D and still have the same, as a TH3D product. But I was kind of thinking of like starting up just like not a whole like company with everything, but just kind of like a virtual entity, if that makes sense, where, we can be more focused on marketing to smart home people. Like, I know there's overlap, but there's not enough where stuff like that. I don't think we'd be able to move 500 of those in a year, to be honest. So, I can get a lot of cool stuff. I can get a lot of cool products made. The problem is, the amount of funds needed to bring a product to market, because you have to order minimums when you're doing production runs, makes it prohibitive, because it's like, well, I don't want to get stuck with all these or sell them at a loss. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, Nadir we got the last question here, or I see Ben didn't ask things. What's it called? He's asking about the Ender 5 Plus. It's a 24 volt printer, so that's what your 5 Plus will run on, 24 volt. Let's see. So near my favorite heat break, it depends on the hot end. But if we're talking about like Creality hot ends, like I really like our bimetal heat break that we have. I like a lot better than the titanium one we had. The titanium one was a little bit cheaper, but the bimetal does a lot better job at being easier to install, because it's actually like the full length, unlike the titanium one, where it's a little bit shorter, where you had to like mount it perfectly. The bimetal one for the Creality ones works really well. I have it in 1, 2, 3 machines here, four machines, and we got them basically in almost all of our ABS printers. Have our bimetal heat breaks in them now. So, but yeah, so looks like if you guys want to ask questions, I got time for a couple more. I'm on the last one here from Printing Rice in the queue. So if you guys want to ask questions, go ahead and put them in there. Just put exclamation point Q in front of them so the bot picks them up. Printing Rice says, have you seen issue with the EasyBoard V2 or the extruder motor? New install, XYZ work with no issues, E growls. So a growling noise is usually due to like something being over tightened with an extruder. If you're talking about like kind of like an audible sound, the E motor will always make more noise on our boards. And any boards that have control over drivers, so like even our SKR firmware, your E motor will always make more noise because we're running them in spread cycle, not stealth chop, because that's what you're supposed to do so you don't lose steps. But if you're getting like a growling noise, it could be that something is binding up and loading down the motor. I don't have a sound clip, but like the only noise you should hear from your extruder motor is kind of like a very soft, like kind of like, I don't know if my sound filter's picking it up, but it's very faint. And you'll just hear kind of like a slight hissing noise from it. And that's normal. That's a spread cycle doing its job of making it quieter than your 4988s, but also still giving it enough torque. So, but if you're getting like a growling noise, that's usually because your extruder is probably not installed correctly, or maybe you even have a bearing that's bad in your motor. Got to rule out the physical issues. So let's see. Beefing says, I think the Neptune 3 Pro looks like basically the new easy best recommendation for budget printers right now. Neptune, isn't that Elegoo? I've heard a lot of like kind of sketchy stuff with Elegoo. I'm looking up the Neptune 3. I think that's Elegoo. Yeah, I've heard a lot of sketchy stuff about Elegoo. I also think I can't confirm, but I remember people saying that they're not providing source code for firmware. I haven't looked into it, but I have heard like people chatting in Discord about it. Yeah, I'm just looking at the 3. I mean, it looks okay. I see the trend we're going to is let's just put a bunch of plastic covers on everything to make it look like it's new, when really it's just the same thing with some lipstick that everybody else has been selling. I do like the dual belt linking here, but I don't like the touchscreen. You guys know how I feel about touchscreens. So, I mean, if you're using the printer stock, that's usually fine, but once you start wanting to do more stuff, you're going to find yourself in a position where you're not going to be able to modify it. And I don't see any pictures of their control board here. I'm looking here. I'm assuming they're probably using some crappy knockoff processor. But I see they got some white lights there. I'm not ever going to complain about lights, even if they're just white. Lighting is good to have in the printer. If you guys are looking to put lights on your printer, we have our Easy Neo kits that work with most control boards, even stock ones. So, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting. They put a lot of features in here. I just haven't had very good experience with Elegoo. I had a couple of their resin printers, and they never even made on the channel because we had so many issues with them. And I bought them, so I just returned them. All right, let's see. I'll answer this last question here. So Mac will be the last question. He's having jamming with the PLA. Bimetal heat break is an all-metal heat break. All-metal hot ends in general, whether it's our brand, our brand, E3Ds, Crealities, you know, whatever, you're always going to be more prone to jamming on an all-metal hot end when you print with PLA, and we have an article about that. The number one thing is reduce your retraction, and then if that doesn't work, you're going to want to go ahead and use what's called a filament oiler, which is just a little thing you put like either a piece of towel or a sponge in there that clamps around the filament and just lightly adds a little bit of, like, I use canola oil, and it will season the inside of the heat break, and then eventually you won't need the oiler. So and that's with any brand. Like, that's why I do not recommend, if you're only doing PLA, I would recommend against going to an all metal. If you're doing a lot of different materials and you're doing high temp materials, then yes, all metal would be a recommendation. The good in between where you don't have to worry about jamming would be changing out your tubing to something like our tough tubing, because then you get high temp resistance up to 275C, and you don't get the jamming risk that comes with all metal. So, but the number one thing I found is lower retractions, and if that still doesn't work, use a filament oiler for a couple weeks. And basically, if you guys ever use like a cast iron pan, you know, as you use it over time, it builds up a non-stick coating. That's basically what you're doing. PLA is like a, I think it's like a starch-based plastic, but basically it likes to stick to things. PETG and ABS don't really like to stick to things. So like if you're printing tons of ABS, absolutely go all metal. If that's all, basically all you're printing, all metal is great for ABS. But yeah, so there's, I just posted a link in there in chat to the help center. But if you go to our help center, which is support.th3dstudio.com, and just type all metal hot end, there's a page in there called using your all metal hot end. And that's got a whole write up on different things you can try, and recommendations that we found too. So anyways, I'm going to let the little shit out of his crate, and we're going to give them, oh, Remo's, look at him. He's perking up. He's like, oh, it's end of stream time. You see me getting up to go get the bag of the treats? Yeah? Come on. You want a treat? A treat? Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. No. Can we sit? Come on. Can we sit? Sit. Good boy. Remo, shake. Shake. Speak. Yeah, here we go. All right, well, that was easy. And yes, Comet does actually know sit. Krista already taught him that. We gotta show everybody, because then we'll be able to look back and see how you've been growing. Look at, he doesn't care. He's like, I just want my food. I just want my food. So anyways, I will talk to you guys later. And I see somebody complaining about YouTube sucking. Yeah, that's YouTube. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Sorry I was kind of all over the place, and sorry for the interruptions from this guy barking, but we're working on it. I don't know why he's like barking. So, but I will see you guys on the next stream, and as always, happy printing. I'm gonna go take these little dummies outside and play with the ball. Remo, do you want to play with the ball? Do you want to play with the ball? Ball. Ball!